week.
Hey, I mean,
ammo certainly has value.
You can't throw gold or silver coins or certificates at people, but you can throw back lead in their face.
I don't know. Maybe you could, throw the gold at them, and they'd, greedy, pick it up, then you pull out your gun. I don't know.
I don't know.
But the other thing about the money is, and again, we have legal tender laws in this country. Now, I got a question. If the money is real money, why do we need a law with the threat of imprisonment if you don't accept it as money? I would think if we all know it's real money, you don't need a law to tell people it's real money, right?
Oh, long rabbit trails.
All right. Well, let's go back real quick to the Thomas Pryor case. Again, his argument, and that's, again, there's so many rabbit trails
I know.
within the tax code law that appears to snag you, and you can say, well, I don't have income. I simply get compensation for my labor. In fact, one of the Supreme Court decisions was very clear that income is profit or gain, and the words that the court used were not the mere compensation for labor. Two different classes.
It doesn't matter, because even though the Supreme Court has ruled on that, they've also ruled on the fact that it is lawful. It is your God-given right to travel in your private capacity in an automobile without a license. Now,
absolutely settled law. Every state and federal Supreme Court decision has backed that up.
But they do not want you to know this. They do not want you to understand the true power that the people have. For if the people understood this, the people that are in the power trying to take more, wouldn't be able to do what they're doing and usurp the things that they're usurping. I mean, it's like, I don't want to go there either. So,
well, that was one issue I wanted to try to start with this woman last night, was about the automobile deal. But again, we've got this verbicide thing going on where, yes, I think even the police recognize that it's a difficult obstacle for the government, that, yes, as travelers on the public roads, in what the Supreme Court says is a safe and ordinary conveyance, i.e. an automobile. In fact, I had an attorney say, no, they've got to be able to license and regulate that because the automobile is a dangerous weapon. No, sir. Very clearly, Supreme Court says it's safe and ordinary. So we have an unlimited right to travel, and you know these terms better than I do, antecedent to the formation of law, basically, to travel on the public roads.
well,
let's bypass that. I probably have that wrong. But so, how can the government at that point license you, license your travel? And it's through the verbicide. They're going to call this traveling a new term, driving.
Because you're a commercial driver, and it's too much to explain and get off into. We've already had discussions.
I think it needs to be touched on a little bit, but again, driving has an idea of commercial activity behind it. Motor vehicle in any of the codes strictly says any carriage or motorized conveyance operated for the purposes of commercial activity. So here we are again, going like, oh yeah, I guess I'm a driver. I got to get me one of them licenses. So what have I said? I've waived my rights. I've said, I'm now engaging in commercial activity, and I need that damn license, that permission from the government to engage in a God-given right. Isn't that true?
Well,
more or less?
Could be. I mean, depending on how
I'm saying that
some people put on their licenses all rights reserved. Some people put on their licenses with their signature, because it's part of your signature, without prejudice. I happen to know two people sitting in this room that have done something like that, but I've digressed again. The whole thing comes down to, you give the devil an inch, and he's going to want to take a yard
He's going to think he's a ruler.
Yeah, and then he's gonna then he's gonna take hundreds of yards, then miles, and then hundreds of miles, and then he tries his best to own everything. And it actually, all this stuff came back in with the licensing for picking up horse manure and all that, but
No, I didn't know that.
but you can really trace it all the way back. Licensures, all of them are essentially tied into black and a white getting married, because the license is to do something that would ordinarily be a crime otherwise. It is ungodly for, and what's considered a crime like it is, for two different races to get married. And there was a black and a white couple that wanted to get married. They were permitted to get married, like the homosexuals want to get married, one thing or another. It just gets broader and broader. It's like the laser beam that we discussed the other day at the range. And up close, it might not move a lot, but further down the range, 100 yards, 50 yards, 100 yards.
A quarter of an inch close up.
Yeah, it just magnifies itself down the other end of the range, and that's what we've essentially done. We've got off the track just a little bit of leaven. Leaven is the whole lump. A little bit of lie, a little bit of sin. Leaven is the whole thing. And if you keep going down that road, eventually your whole life is full of it, and you think you're living like it's okay, everything's okay. And so just like the insurance and all that wasn't necessarily required on your cars up until when the insurance companies were pressing for it. And it all goes back to, anyway, I don't want to get off track on another subject, but...
So how's the cigar?
Turn a little ashy.
Not improving at this point, or just changing?
It's not improving. It's changing more like an ashy kind of taste. Still got a lot of dark tones to it. Copious amounts of smoke.
That's a good thing.
It's slightly bitter. Slightly bitter.
I noticed a very faint bitter taste throughout that entire cigar when I smoked it. It wasn't bad. It didn't ruin it for me at all, because there was plenty of good sweet spice and some nuts when I smoked it. I really enjoyed it.
But, well, I mean, really the whole thing comes down to is when man allows man to rule over him instead of God, just like the Israelites decided to pick a man instead of God. You know, it's all the same thing. And when the remnant that are God's get back to him and his laws and his nature.
Well, wasn't that something that God, in other words,
yeah.
Well, God saw him and basically said, "That's what you want. Go ahead, have a man as your leader."
Okay.
I think I don't know if it was your personal viewpoint or something you heard that you agreed with, but one of the most simple and yet profound things I ever heard you say was that the government has essentially declared itself God.
Yeah, that's it. And you follow the laws of the God that you worship. Period. We all worship a God. A God, and there's different terms for the term God, like ruler, things like that. But essentially, we all have a set of standards that we follow. Whether or not they're perverted or not, it's not the issue. We all follow some kind of standard. Else we couldn't function. We would be in a cuckoo house if we didn't have some kind of order. And if that order is in sync with God and his nature, that's the way God wants his people to, to manifest their lives in society after. Then you're following after righteousness. If he says...
And it should work.
And it will work. Not should, it will work. God's promise that it will work. And when we deviate from that, his promise is all these different problems